Tracey.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We are so thrilled that you are here with us today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're here to discuss a very important topic, one that involves our students, the very heartbeat of Georgia's future. My name is Tracey Nance, and I am a born and raised Georgian, a parent, an educator, the 2020-2021 Georgia Teacher of the Year turned education advocate. We're here today to discuss the confusion around the superintendent and the State Board of Education refusal to approve a state course code for AP African American Studies. We want to talk about the confusion. We want to address the political theatrics that went on around it, as well as the unequal treatment of AP African American Studies in Georgia, which, mind you, was designed and accredited by the exact same College Board who approved of Georgia's 38 other AP courses. And I do want to clarify, we're having this press conference today because despite the headlines that said that Superintendent Wood's decision was reversed, this is not a reversal. In fact, what it has done, including misleading headlines from the AP on Wednesday night, it's sowed confusion across the state for all Georgians and for reporters alike. So we want to clear some of those things up today. Governor Kemp's letter to Superintendent Woods was public facing, and it was an admonishment. And in all of my experience, I can tell you that is not the way state level decisions are made. Not with public admonishments, not with that type of discussion. This was theatrics, and it's harming our kids. It's harming Georgia's future. The lack of equal access to full and complete history is not new in our state. I was sitting on the State Board of Education as an ex officio member in 2021 with the resolution against teaching on race passed. At that time, I opposed that measure, and Matt Jones, the chief of staff for Superintendent Woods, specifically told me, Tracey, put down your microphone. It is only a paper tiger. That's it. A year later, that very paper tiger that he talked about became state law in the form of House Bill 1084, also known as our Divisive Concepts Bill. Even then, education advocates appealed to our legislators, and yet they assured us, no, 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 our students will not miss out on a thing. They will not miss out on rigorous instruction and curriculum. Here we are 2 years later, and that is exactly what is happening. When I say it's not a reversal, it's not. Instead, what we're seeing is the governor telling districts that they can effectively decide to be racist if they would like. And it is not okay today, not one bit. Plessy v. Ferguson was the separate but equal case in the Supreme Court in 1896. That allowed schools to give unequal treatment to students across races and to keep our schools segregated. In 1954, Brown versus Board of Education resolved that, saying that every single child in our nation deserved equal access to the education that they deserve. So what I see now is that this solution that the governor and superintendent have proposed is a whole lot of separate but equal, and that is not okay. I want to get to the most important part of why we're here, and that is because the students who are going to speak to you today decided that they wanted to speak out. They want to make it known that their classmates, their families, their communities want African American Studies to have an approved AP course approved by the College Board so that they can obtain the correct credits on their transcripts, as well as the schools receive the necessary funding. And so I'm going to turn it over to the most important people in the entire world. We will leave space for questions and answers at the end. And I hope that you will stay and ask those questions because that is how we're going to grow together. Collaboration, listening, and truth telling. First up, I would like to introduce you to Maya Flowers Glass. She is a high school student who is going to take this course this year at Maynard Jackson High School.
Good afternoon. My name is Maya Flowers Glass, and I'm a rising freshman at Maynard Jackson High School. For as long as I can remember, I have been in love with history. Having activist parents, I was always told that learning history is the only way that we have the resources and knowledge to do better, that we need to teach children the truth of our history so that they can reckon with our mistakes and make our future more just. And yet, students in schools all across Georgia are consistently taught the version of history that is best for the government. Educators want to provide every child an accurate and quality education, while politicians want to exclude certain kids, denying their schools funding and writing people who look like them out of our history books. The study of African American history is not merely an elective or supplementary topic. It is an essential component of understanding the full narrative of our nation and the diverse experiences that have shaped it. And yet, in our current school system, the only way that students can really grasp African American studies are in said elective classes. As soon as I heard that Maynard Jackson was offering AP African American History a year ago, I knew it was something I wanted to take. Mind you, I did not know what advanced placement courses were, and I really hadn't thought about the classes that I wanted to take yet. But something about knowing that I had never been exposed to most of Black history in school struck something in me, especially when, at the time, the world history class I was taking provided little to no information about any countries not in Europe. Thankfully, AP African American History is being renewed in APS, allowing Maynard to continue teaching it. I am very grateful that for now, I will be able to take the class and hopefully get the proper credit for it. But for many students and teachers, the new code is prohibiting them from taking the course or receiving proper credit from it. It is barring them from getting to learn a side of history that is often overlooked and restricting Black students from seeing themselves reflected in history in ways that highlight African American success instead of only struggle. The barriers in getting to this class are unacceptable, especially considering that this struggle is unique to AP African American History. This AP course should be treated like every other AP, easily accessible and fully funded. We have seen that over the last few days, the amount of backlash against the Georgia Department of Education decision has created. It has made so many realize how important this class is, because it isn't just a class, it is a gateway to teaching actual history, not the whitewashed and dimmed down version we are taught now. It should not be this hard to teach actual American history.
And that is exactly why I always say, listen to the students. Maya is going to be able to take this course this year, and yet here she is worried about her age mates across the state. Next up, Miss Erin Crawford will speak to us and give us her thoughts.
Good afternoon. My name is Erin Crawford, a senior at Campbell High School. As a history lover, I have sat back and reflected on why the majority of the history curriculum taught in schools, not just in Georgia, but around the nation, has centered around Europeans. Growing up in an African American household, I was exposed at a young age to Black history via books, movies, and other forms of media. When I look at each unit from each history class I've taken throughout my time, in primary school and now high school, only a sliver of what we have learned in history class has been about African Americans or other people of color. As an African American, I have a desire to know more about my people and our origins and how we thrived and pushed through our many triumphs and adversities and many other aspects of being African American that many can only see once it's incorporated into a class and taught in a classroom setting. African American history is an integral part of United States history, and without the history is incomplete. Learning African American history, regardless of your race, is essential to all students to gain a broader understanding of the history and give us context for the world today. Learning full African American history is how we learn into better learners, thinkers, and informed citizens, and are able to better respond to our world with the knowledge of the past. Creating barriers for our schools to teach AP African American Studies class takes away this opportunity from students and is an attack on our learning. Unfortunately, this attack is not isolated. Recent legislation like House Bill 1084, Georgia's divisive concept bill, has set the precedent for our local and state officials to censor our history and deny systemic racism. Passed in 2022, we're now feeling the detrimental effects with the blockage of AP African American Studies. As an African American student in Georgia who has never had the opportunity to learn this material in a classroom, I know how valuable it would be to learn Black history at a school as a rigorous subject and be able to receive the proper AP accreditation for it. Blocking this class is deeply harmful, not just for African American students, but all students in the state who have been looking forward to and deserve to take this class. A course like AP African American Studies deepens our understanding of other cultures and helps students like myself better navigate the world around us, and we deserve the freedom to learn our past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin. You are absolutely right. Black history is not just for our minority students or underserved students in Georgia. They are for everyone. And with that, I want to remind everyone listening that in Georgia's classrooms today, sitting in those seats, 38% white students, 54% Black or brown students. It matters to all of us to make this place a better world. Next up, I would like to introduce you to Ms. Kirsten Fournier. She is a parent as well as a social studies educator. Kirsten.
Hi, everybody. Former social studies educator, but missing the classroom very much these days. It has been a confusing last few days in our household. We have 3 boys getting ready for the start of the school year, including my eldest, who is a rising senior at Wheeler High School in Cobb County. His schedule is expected to have AP African American Studies on it. And this week, we've been left uncertain if it still will, if the course content will be fully taught, or if he will get AP credit for the due rigor. My son is an avid social studies student. He has taken every AP social studies class available to him. So he was thrilled when he was offered the opportunity to be one of the first Cobb County students to take African American studies. In our family, we don't encourage our children just to take an AP course for the sake of taking an AP course. You take an AP class, meaning you have incredible passion, curiosity for one subject. You have the desire to take the time and energy to dive deep, exploring the literature, perspectives, maps, photographs, data, conflicts, accomplishments, people, and events of a subject area to create a more complete, vibrant, and honest picture for students. In addition to knowledge, critical thinking skills are practiced and developed, listening and questioning not only what you see, but what you don't see, getting more comfortable being uncomfortable, knowing enough so you can ask the hard questions and process the honest answers. Equipping my son to thrive, not only in the classroom, but in his own personal development, now and in the future, as well as in extracurriculars like Model UN and in his relationships with a diverse group of friends. Because exploring social studies and history is not just about the past, but about the present as well. Understanding why things are the way they are now, so that as they move forward towards adulthood, they are better prepared to listen empathetically, express themselves clearly, and be thoughtful and engaged citizens of this country. The state of Georgia owes it to all of their students, like my son and his little brothers, to offer every opportunity possible to prepare them for school and life. I expect him to be uncomfortable at times, learning about people, perspectives, and events that challenge him, as well as the essential and complex discourse that is sure to unfold in class. But as James Loewen said, the antidote to feel good history is not feel bad history, but honest and inclusive history, so we know better and can do better. I have reached out to Georgia's superintendent, the Cobb superintendent, Governor Kemp, and to Cobb School Board candidate Laura Judge, whom I'll be supporting in this year's election, to make sure that they know this is a priority for me as an advocate for my son's rights as a student and my rights as a parent. Please join me in reaching out as well to any candidates you may be considering to make sure your voice is heard, because every high school student in Georgia should have access to the same high-quality education and the same advanced placement classes. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten. Our students deserve access to a rigorous and complete education. And you are not wrong when you talk about the uncertainty of the last couple of days. For me, it truly mirrors the vagueness of House Bill 1084 itself and those promises that have not been kept. Next up is Forsyth County High Schooler, Sahara Prakash. Sahara?
Hello, my name is Sahar Prakash, and I'm a rising senior at a public high school in Forsyth County. As a student, I know that we all want to have the resources to thrive and achieve our dreams, which requires fully funded schools and a representative curriculum. But as a lot of us know, our state often puts the interests of politicians before that of students. Georgia is one of the most diverse states in our nation, and that's something I've grown up loving about it. However, rather than focusing on providing a quality education that reflects the stories of our diverse student population, our state politicians insist that Georgia schools only teach white excellence. The only cultural AP class offered at my school is AP European Studies, which has never received pushback. But when it comes to AP African American Studies, our state superintendent says it is not a priority. This seems to tell us that minority stories in history are less important and valued. In order to take steps towards dismantling systemic racism, we must support diverse student bodies as they go through their high school years and equip them with the same resources as their white counterparts. It shouldn't be difficult to offer the opportunity to learn about Black history in a state that is not only more than 30% Black, but also one of the hearts of the civil rights movement. In fact, it should be encouraged, expected, and properly funded. Additionally, it is not only beneficial for students to be exposed to folks from all backgrounds, it is necessary. Alongside the fact that they help us become more informed global citizens, the reason history classes are so essential to curriculum is because they play an important role in shaping young minds through instilling values of equity, justice, and inclusion. Furthermore, they help us identify complex injustices and think critically about society and democracy. But white stories don't tell the full story. And Black voices are imperative to understanding this nation. Let's move forward in history, not back, and give thousands of young Georgians like me the opportunity to learn about the rich history and contributions of Black Americans in our country, something valuable to all students, no matter what we look like. White students have been granted this opportunity since the beginning of public education in this country. It's time now to open our hearts and hands to Black youth and allow them to take this journey throughout their own history. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sahara. I'm sure every single listener here is seeing exactly why teachers choose to teach, because the kids are they're the important ones. They're why we're here. And if we listen to them and trust them, our path forward is very, very clear. Our last student speaker for today is Mr. Daniel Herrera. He is a rising senior at Dunwoody High School who is supposed to be taking this course. I'm going to let Daniel tell you a little bit more. Daniel?
Thank you very much. And thank you to all of you for your excellent statements today. And I'm so glad to be working with all of you. And there's no better group to try to pursue justice on this issue. So I'd like to thank you guys. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Daniel Herrera from Dunwoody High School, and I believe in the importance of history. I was supposed to take AP African American Studies this year. Remembrance of history is not a fault or impractical effort. It is not a fault to remember the history of America's Black community, which includes 4 million people in Georgia. My earliest memories as a student and of conditions around me were when I grew up in a low-income minority community, in a little apartment in a predominantly Black complex. I attended a Black and Hispanic majority school. Most of my friends were Black. And since then, I've been surrounded and involved with Black issues and causes, such as systemic racism, the school-to-prison pipeline, and educational racism, such as disproportionate punishment to Black students. I resonate with these issues due to my experience of seeing them firsthand. These issues were the spark that led me to be interested in AP African American Studies. When I heard the news a few days ago, I was heartbroken. The planning that teachers, board members, and other admin have done has been wasted. I was looking forward to learning about vibrant Black history, culture, and studies. As someone who considers himself a student of history, I enjoy learning about different perspectives, such as the one found in African American studies. The ruling in the last few days has created chaos within my schedule, as I've had to suddenly change courses. The recent decision to not code and fund AP African American Studies the same way as every other AP class offered in the state of Georgia is an attack on teachers, an attack on students, and most importantly, an attack on a comprehensive education. The problem with recent legislative actions in Georgia is that they've set the precedent that history is the responsibility of the government to regulate. And that ideal fails to sit right with me. And fellow students, specifically Black students, agree with me. The hundreds of years of work of brilliant Black thinkers, writers, and speakers must be recognized. I call on our superintendent, Richard Woods, Vice Chair Stanley DeJarnett, and Governor Brian Kemp to fully approve the course code for AP African American Studies, just like all of Georgia's other 38 AP courses. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, y'all. I think it's really clear why we're here and why our students are so concerned, why educators are so concerned. It is beyond time that we set down the politics and get out of our classrooms where these children are trying to learn and trying to make our world a better place. Superintendent Woods has always been, in the minds of most educators in our state, a teacher's teacher and one who knows the diversity of this state. He has told us countless times that he keeps a student desk from his former classroom in his office so that he remembers. And so here is what I'm asking of you, Superintendent Woods. Look at that desk. Picture every Georgian child that could be sitting in that desk. What do you want for their future? What do you want for their access to learning? Separate is not equal. Allowing districts to decide whether or not to code AP African American Studies material is not going to make equal access possible for all of our kids. Separate is not equal. It's been over 70 years, and it is beyond time that we honor all Americans' history and understand that the contributions that every American has made is important and makes this nation that we're living in, the state of Georgia, a better place to live. I'm calling on every single Georgian listening who's reading about this to call the superintendent's office, email, get in touch with the State Board of Education members, get in touch with Governor Kemp's office. I can tell you from traveling the state and being in the space of policy for more than 5 years now, that this does not reflect the will of Georgians whatsoever. Georgians across all backgrounds believe in the importance of access to education. And furthermore, this has even been legislated. We believe in parents' rights, right? I'm going to pass this over to Jennifer Susko, where she will begin taking questions. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tracy, and thank you to all of our students and caregivers. To our journalists here, we are going to take questions, and the way that we will do that is allow our students and caregivers who are comfortable answering raise their hand, and Tracy and I can facilitate calling on them if necessary, or just feel free to come off mic. So if anybody has a question who's here from the press, feel free to ask.
Hi, it's Crystal with Axios. So can you all sort of provide, I guess, a bird's eye view of how, I've been seeing a lot of, I guess, explanations saying that the quote unquote reversal does not solve the issue. So can you all explain what is the outstanding issue when it comes to this specific course and how it's treated versus other AP courses in the state?
Daniel, go ahead.
Thank you very much for your question, and it's a vital question for sure. So on the bird's eye view, the way the course is being treated, and as I said, and I know how many other student speakers here said this exact same thing, is that it's not being treated equally. It's separate, but it's equal. Separate. And a separate class is not an equal class. It's just a way for people to say that it's equal, even though it's separate. So on the ground, in the bird's eye view of this, it's being treated massively disproportionately than how it should be. And I know me and all of my other fellow student speakers agree that we are undergoing an effort currently as a state to disregard Black history. And that's the issue that we're trying to address today. Thank you for the question.
Yeah. To further clarify, on a student's transcript, when a student takes an AP course, there's a couple of differences. One, their transcript looks amazing for colleges, and taking that test can even give them college credit, saving their parents many dollars, right? Also, there is a GPA bump, where if a student receives an A, for example, which would usually be coded with a 4, for an advanced placement course, they receive a 5. Another difference is about how much funding goes to the schools. An AP course coded correctly is going to receive more funding because of the trainings that teachers need in order to be certified to teach that course, the materials for students, and the cost of taking the test itself. Georgia's coded African American Studies course, as it was created in 2020, is only a 1 semester long course. There is no way that we can set it on par with the advanced placement course designed by the College Board. The only difference is that the one designed by the College Board uplifts Black perspectives.
Thank you. This is Ross with the Georgia Recorder. That kind of leads into what I'm trying to kind of understand, which is, for a district like APS that does appear to be, trying to cooperate and offer this course at the AP level, would students there be able to get all of those advantages in terms of, having the rigor, having it over a full semester and getting that GPA boost? It seems obvious that districts that don't cooperate, the students would not be on track to pass the AP exam, but if the district does want to do that, can the students there get the full advantage like they can with any other AP class?
It's unclear at this point. We're back to that vagueness. And I think that was the goal of these theatrics, to make it vague, right? Almost a week into this, we should not still be asking these questions. And yet here we are, and we have to. We don't know. We don't know if they'll get full credit fully. What we do know is that the governor's solution, the superintendent's solution to pass it back to school districts, makes it so that once again, your zip code is going to determine the types of courses that you have access to.
Any students? No. Okay. Next question.
Hey, can you hear me? This is Maureen Downey with the AJC.
I hear you, Maureen.
Okay, my question on this, which is the extraordinary element to me, is the fact that in Richard Wood's response to the governor, he essentially says we're going to open this class to local input and to let locals handle it. And I'm struck by that because AP is a structured curriculum. It's at a high level. It's developed over years. So the idea that you can put this on a community table and invite people to choose this piece or that piece, does that make any sense at all? Because AP is again so structured. You miss a week of an AP class, and that can actually impede your performance on the AP exam. So I'm just wondering the sense that you have of what would happen to that class if suddenly it was sort of a town square discussion of what should be taught.
Tracey.
I think you're exactly right. And I think if we start making that course a discussion, how many other courses will become a discussion on down the road, right? How much more are Georgia students going to miss out on? or does it only come to courses that highlight Black and Brown voices? It is a question that we should all be concerned with, and that's why I'm going to repeatedly tell Georgians that separate is not equal. This is a state level decision, and the very best outcome that we can ask for here is for Superintendent Woods or our State of Education chairman, right, that they give a state course code for this class, and that it is not left up to districts. Because when we start letting local politics interfere with kids' learning, we've lost our way.
Okay. Any students? Okay, that was one question from the chat, Tracey, that you read from JDP. This is another one. Also, can you speak to what this might mean in light of Cobb County's policy about not teaching 1619 project and the ban on CRT?
I'm going to toss that question to you, Miss Jennifer. You
You
are
know,
well acquainted.
The answer to that is I don't know, and I'm very confused because I know that they've come out and said that they are going to still approve it in some schools, but I'm confused about how it's not going to violate that ban. I was a school counselor in Cobb County, actually resigned in protest of that ban because it absolutely prohibits some of the stuff that's taught, the most valuable stuff that's taught in that class. So that's a big question, and especially when we know that Cobb was the first county to fire a teacher for these laws. So if a teacher teaches from this AP course and violates Cobb's ban on critical race theory and the 1619 project, which is incredibly vague, are they protected? Will they be fired like the teacher was last year? That is an excellent question, and I would challenge anybody to contact Superintendent Chris Ragsdale to ask it. Next
I
question.
think that
Oh, sorry.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
no, I just wanted to circle back to that point. I think it also highlights the confusion about why on earth we would invite public comment. It's an AP class. We don't hold town halls to talk about what's an AP biochemistry. And so I think it's a dangerous position to put teachers in, to not allow them to follow the AP College Board curriculum as it stands, because if it's deviated, I would worry for the safety and the teacher protections that need to be in place. This is supposed to be a national certified course. It's an advanced placement course. It doesn't matter what state you're in. And so teachers need to be able to meet the needs of their students and teach that class without any fear of some nuanced laws.
Sahara, I see your hand.
Hi, this is kind of expanding on another question that was asked before about, opening up the discussion of this class in local settings. I think we have to consider how unprofessional that is. That doesn't happen to any other class. There's a reason why that doesn't happen to any other class. And the fact that we're trying to mask it as, something that we're going to allow districts to decide. We understand that this is racism. We understand that this is suppression. We understand that this is censorship, and we don't accept that.
Absolutely. Next question. Okay. Is there something in the chat, Tracey? I can't see it right now.
There's a question from Donald in the chat that says, I know CRT, and the gist of CRT is that the mostly all-white SCOTUS decisions do not receive Blacks' lived experiences as evidence of institutional racism. Justices have said that discrimination is just a few bad apples, and there is no racism. So this is about, AP Black history is critical in and out tasks to provide 21st century students. And I can't agree more. Like I said, this is not new to Georgia's history. In June of 2021, when the State Board of Education passed the resolution against teaching on race. Even though I was sitting on that board and receiving all other emails at the time, I was not notified about that meeting or document. In fact, I found out through an AJC reporter that it was happening, and I was able to prepare my remarks for the following day. At that time, they told us it was a paper tiger. When House Bill 1084 then became law the next year in 2022, again, we were told that this would not limit rigorous instruction and it was not going to limit voices. That document said specifically that Georgia is not a racist state and that systemic racism does not exist. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to show you an example of systemic racism, and it is the refusal to approve a state course code for AP African American Studies. That is a prime example of systemic racism.
Thanks, Tracey. I think Maya wants to say something.
Yes, I'm answering the question, what is the best outcome we should ask for? The best outcome is basically just to code it like any other AP class. I think someone said this before, but we've never had this discussion about computer science or any other history class. This is singularly applying to AP African American Studies. We need it to be treated the exact same. It should not have to have this extra discussion. And we know that this is because they're trying to prohibit these students from seeing themselves reflected in school books. Really, the answer is just that it needs to be treated the exact same.
Thank you. Any more questions from our journalists? Oh, Sahara, you want to say something?
Yeah, just to elaborate on that, this state offers AP European studies. What is the difference? We have to ask ourselves why there was no pushback on that and why AP African American Studies continues to get this pushback. There is no difference, and we know that it's just racism.
Absolutely. Tracey, there's a question in the chat. Hypothetically, if this AP course no longer counts as an AP course, will an additional AP course be offered in its place?
From what I know, that is not the current plan. Georgia currently allows access to 38 of the 40 AP courses offered by the College Board. What the state is suggesting in its place is the African American history course designed by Georgia in 2020, and that is that one semester long course. And it simply is not a substitute for the rigorous, rich, and the contributions of Black perspectives that the College Board's course has approved.
Thanks. Okay. Erin, is there anything you would like to answer or say before we move on?
I was just going to say that it's just regarding the censorship with African American studies. I just want to say both of my parents are both educators, and they're put in a very scary position, not knowing if if they were to teach the course, if they would be potentially fired for teaching the course, or just by going by what the College Board says and by going by that curriculum.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Before we move on, I just want to check with the journalists again if we have any other questions before we close.
Jennifer, can I ask one more question? This is Maureen Downey with the AJC.
Of course.
This is probably for you and Tracey and Kirsten perhaps, but the students may want to weigh in. So do you believe that the governor's motivation was to simply appear to be on the right side of this issue and to broaden perhaps his appeal at a time when he may be considering aspiring to national office? Do you think that he and Richard Woods conspired on this, sort of dog and pony show, his firm letter, Richard's sort of baffling response? What do you think is happening there?
I'll call on Daniel first because he wanted to say something, and then Tracey and I can answer.
Yeah, so I saw the letter from Kemp and I thought it was definitely him trying to distance himself for sure. I thought and it was a very unpopular move from the outset. So especially if he's considering national office, I definitely think it was him trying to distance himself from such an unpopular decision. So
Yeah, Daniel, I
Thanks.
agree with you. I believe that, like I said earlier, that's not how state level decisions are made. They're not, there's not a public admonishment from the governor to the state superintendent. I cannot say with any certainty that Superintendent Woods knew about this, but I can tell you that this allowed Governor Kemp to put on his small town hero cape and tell the state that he values families and local control. And it absolutely does make me personally, Tracey Nance, believe that this was a bit performative, all with a hand towards letting voters know that he is going to be the right choice for them when he is running for that Senate seat, and to detract from having to say that he's afraid that his racist constituents won't vote for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just mention again, House Bill 1084. I don't know the complex nature behind why they're doing it, but I find it extremely confusing because in 2022, all of us were at the Capitol, Maureen, saying, don't pass the divisive concepts bill. We need to talk about race. We need to talk about systemic racism. It's taught in schools. We need to talk about it. There's all these problems with this law. Please don't do that. And it was Kemp's law. He was pushing for it to be passed. So to now be like, whoa, 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 there's racism happening. Like, we told you that there was racism happening. We asked you not to pass it. We asked you not to push it, and you did. So I find it extremely confusing. Kirsten, our parent, wants to answer.
I just wanted to add that part of this confusion is the word pilot. When my son received an email from Wheeler last year in the spring as his junior year, announcing who the teacher was going to be, the list of incredible credentials, and the excitement that Wheeler had been chosen as the Cobb County high school to pilot the program. And of course, that word to me felt like the first run, but in light of the confusion over the last few days and the use of the word pilot by Governor Kemp's statement and letter to the superintendent, I'm now concerned that a pilot class is not indicative of a commitment to teach the class in subsequent years as well. And is there a potential loophole that they can say they piloted it and for X, Y, and Z reason, it was not successful, or to whomever's arbitrary standards, and then it wouldn't be available in years going forward or to other schools? So I just wanted to add that piece of pilot is not been explained fully, and there's a lot of questions, confusion, and now concern from a parent perspective.
Thanks. Daniel, I see your hand.
So yeah, this was I raised my hand for Crystal Dixon, who asked if this was performative. What do you think it says about their view of using this course as a political weapon? It's deeply saddening to me because this is such an important course and it's so vital. And I think for the use of this class as a re-election tool or as something to get reelected and as something to, for popular opinion and things like that. This is not a class that is a political weapon. This is just another history class. It should be just another history class. And then Crystal also asked do you think they know this specific subject will cause an uproar? I don't think they knew exactly about the impact it would have. I don't think they knew that we'd be sitting here today having this discussion with such excellent, eloquent speakers. And I'm so glad we can have this discussion. And
Thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, Maya, did you want to contribute as well?
Yeah, about it being used as more of like a political weapon and it causing such an uproar, I think that in using this course as this sort of re-election thing, as Daniel stated. It is putting Kemp on this sort of high horse. It's putting him up on this pedestal where he's being viewed as more, as like people of color are looking at him and they're saying, oh, he's trying to advocate for us. He's trying to say that this course should be like recoded so that it's more accessible. And in reality, it is just him pushing back on his prior bills that have come and targeted these students of color. It is him trying to reword his previous actions to make it look like he is for students of color instead of just for making students assimilate with the oppressive worldviews.
Thank you. Tracey, were you going to answer one?
Yeah, I wanted to speak to Jessica's comment in the chat. She says, as a former public high school math teacher, I know some students try to take as many AP courses as possible, and I don't see how this doesn't hurt all Georgia students with one less AP course option. And Jessica, I think you're absolutely correct. You know, when our students are working on those high school transcripts and their schedules, they are actively thinking about the next step, because isn't that what we've been teaching them to do forever? To think about that next step and to plan and to prepare and to better yourself. And so when AP credit is not offered for this course in some districts, that's an incentive not to select it, not to learn about this rich and valuable history and the contributions that Black Americans have to offer us. So I think it absolutely will detract from that.
Sahara, go ahead.
Speaking more to Ms. Dixon, these actions with AP African American history that Kemp has taken, it's very clear that there's a broader strategy to undermine the legitimacy and the importance of African American history. They are uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable that students feel comfortable speaking up about it. They're uncomfortable that, people are seeing them in a different light. They're going back on everything that they've put into everything that they've coded, and we can obviously see how everything is being manipulated. They want to control a narrative and they want to limit a scope of what is being taught about the Black experience in society, because they know that students are the future and that they will run with this information. They know what they will do as leaders in the world in the future.
So well said. Thank you. Any other questions before we close? Or any students who want to say anything before we end? All good? Okay. So just before we close, we would like to repeat our call to action, which is for everyone to reach out to State Superintendent Woods, the state BOE, and Governor Kemp to ask that they approve the code for AP African American Studies, just like they do for all other AP classes. And we'd like to thank you all so much for joining. And I think if you have additional questions for a specific student or any of our parents or caregivers who spoke today, I believe they're going to put their information in the chat so that you can reach out to them. Is that correct, Tracey?
Yes, and if there are additional parents who joined on for that purpose, you may also put your information in the chat. Anyone who is willing to give comment and to speak on this. I want to tell you that your voice is important. I hear from educators and students and parents all the time, what is my vote or what does my voice actually matter? And I can tell you, it matters. It matters. So please make your voice heard on this topic. Following this conference, we will send out a press release as well as a link to a recording.
And those emails are going in the chat now. So anyone who wants to reach out, feel free to stay on and take down that contact info. And thank you all again so much for coming.